Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be extra special bonkers because today we have Michael Bordonero with us today. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Travis. It's great to be back with you, my friend.
Always a pleasure, sir. I always love hearing from you. And just real quick on a side note, Michael, join our Facebook chat group. Scott, Todd, Orlando, Luke, Steve, we're all waiting for you, brother. Come and join our group, man. We have a lot of great discussions.
Okay, man, I'll be there.
I hope so, man. We absolutely love you, man. Huge fan. Now, you guys, what we're here to talk to you guys today about is essentially a potential foreclosure wave, in Florida worsening. So obviously I have Michael here because Michael's an expert. He knows a lot about Florida, right? Obviously, this is our personal YouTube channel. We're not financial advisors. And, having said that, guys, please understand, please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, shoot us a comment below. And when you're done doing that, please go over to Michael's YouTube channel right here, Michael Bordonero. And you guys, this guy has absolute fire content. You guys know that I've been doing outside videos. This man has motivated me. Now, obviously, you guys know that I am not as in a good a shape as Michael. But Michael, I'm going to blame that on my COVID at the beginning of the year, my heavy camera equipment. But brother, I need to get my cardio up. It's harder than I thought. But anyways, brother, before we kind of dig in here, and I'm going to show the viewers, a bunch of slides on exactly what's going on in Florida. But do you want to say anything before we kick this off?
Well, I would just like to thank you for having me on your channel once again. And I hope that this video really helps everybody who watches it, prepare for what's happening in the housing market coming here in 2023.
So where I'm going to start is I'm going to show the viewers where Florida's at, Michael, as far as the surge in mortgage defaults. So I'm going to pull up this right now. Now, this is going to be linked in my description for anyone that's watching. You guys can review this data. And actually, we would encourage you to use the data to make up your mind on what's going on. But Michael, this was a huge shocker to me, man. Florida is actually the #1 state right now for non-current payments as far as an increase. Now, what we're looking at here is a 6-month change. So what this is saying is in 6 months, Florida's default or non-current percentage has jumped 24.63%. And personally, I was blown away by that because Florida hasn't been on this list. So, when I'm looking at this, obviously, Michael, what I'm trying to figure out, and that's kind of why I'm really, really glad that you're here is, why is that happening? Why do you think the surge of defaults is happening or non-current? Do you think it's unaffordability? Do you think it's the hurricane? Can you share with us your thoughts?
Yeah, those are good points, Travis. I think it's actually a little bit of everything. We did have Hurricane Ian. It made a huge impact with the state in many different areas. You had a lot of places on the west coast of Florida that got completely wiped out. And I'm sure a lot of those defaults are happening in that area. Then you have people that just can't afford it anymore. Like you said, Florida has become, it went from being the very affordable retirement state over the last the last several decades, now being like basically unaffordable, almost to like California or New York standards. It's getting out of hand basically. And I would assume part of those defaults come from the fact that people have, property taxes that are going up considerably, as well as the fact that insurance rates here are ballooning. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I see people all the time telling me, hey, my insurance went from $1,800 a year to, $5,000 a year, or from $3,800 a year to $9,000 a year, like crazy stuff like that. And for most people, that's completely out of the realm of affordability. And I think things like that can easily lead to people defaulting on their mortgages.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I just read something, Michael, that, talking about unaffordability in Florida, Miami has now become the #1 most unaffordable metro area in the nation. Have you heard that?
I have, yeah, relative to what the median incomes here
Yeah.
are. Yeah, absolutely. It totally makes sense because I've seen it, I've seen it with my own eyes. I am in shock actually, like as a local, how
Yeah.
expensive it has gotten just in the past 2 years. I mean, it is just insane, Travis. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, we can't, and I'm looking at the data regularly. We can't really see like significant price declines in Florida like we do in Austin, Boise, and many areas in California. But Michael, I really think that I think, like last time, I mean, California, Florida, Nevada, I think Florida is going to get rocked like California. because of that unaffordability. And I think that hurricane just really accelerates it. So let me pull up a map, that's going to show the damage of the hurricane. And here it is right here, Michael. So again, this is from Black Knight, and essentially what they attempted to do is basically, draw a path of the hurricane. So, and obviously it's pointing out that it essentially affected 26 different counties in Florida, a total of 2.5 million homes. 2.5 million homes, could have been damaged. There could have been, up to 500, billion dollars in damage. So, how much worse, Michael, do you think a foreclosure wave, unaffordability, defaults, how much worse do you think it's going to get specifically as a result of the recent hurricane?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because, on the one hand, you're starting to see the defaults tick up now, but, this year just got started and inflation is still raging. So I think we're going to have to just wait and see where this year takes us in terms of, can people keep affording to make these payments? What's going to happen? Are they going to try to sell these properties before they go into foreclosure? I mean, that's what I would do if it were me facing this situation. I mean, why let the property go into foreclosure when you can just sell it now and maybe at least walk away with a little bit of money in your pocket, if not hopefully breaking even? That would be my strategy. So I think maybe people might start doing that. And if they do, great. It's going to bring a lot more inventory to the state. That's exactly what we need. But when I look at how many people are just pouring in here, I feel like there's always going to be somebody to take their place because it just seems to be the never ending line of people looking to move into Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's the number one. It's number one state of migration. I think, or Texas and Florida. I keep getting them confused. It depends on the data, but you guys have, an overwhelming amount of obviously migration. But let me ask you this, Michael. Obviously, generally, in order to have your house properly protected from a hurricane, you need things like hurricane insurance. You need things like flood insurance. How many people that were affected do you think that actually didn't have insurance, right? And obviously we know that if some of these houses get wiped away and someone doesn't have insurance, not everyone's going to be able to rebound from that. How much of an issue do you think that's going to be?
I think it's probably a huge issue. I mean, even people that do have insurance, the amount of them that have adequate coverage to cover those type of losses, most people don't, especially if you're not in a flood zone and you decide not to go for the flood insurance because it's not required. Even places like in Orlando saw huge flooding just from the rain, that we got from that storm. And people that didn't have flood insurance, you're out of luck. And you didn't have hurricane insurance, you're out of luck. Things like
Yeah.
that, are just people take chances. I talk about this sometimes on my channel, and I think a lot of people are willing to take the chance lately of just self-insuring their properties. If you have some money and you're kind of feeling a little bit dangerous, you might take the chance of just having no insurance. If you have a property with no mortgage, say, I've been here for 20 years, nothing's ever happened, I've never had a claim, I'm going to go without it. A lot of people do that too because, you got to look at something else here, Travis. A lot of people that buy here in Florida, they pay cash. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those situations where people don't necessarily need to have insurance either.
Let's talk about that, Michael. So essentially, y'all, what happens when someone purchases a home with cash? They are not technically required to have home insurance. When someone gets a loan, like a mortgage, which is a huge percentage of people, the lender requires their collateral be properly insured. So essentially, what we're saying is anyone with cash, they could be a victim of cutting corners. And Michael, here's the other problem, man. Say people did get a mortgage, they were required to insure their property. If I'm not mistaken, that hurricane created additional flood zones. So it flooded people out that were not in a flood zone and were not required to get flood insurance. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's why I have flood insurance on everything, man. I live in Texas. It's a hurricane area. So, do you think that's going to put, obviously it's going to raise the insurance premiums, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, people are writing me all the time telling me how much that's going up by. I think that's probably also going to be one of the number one reasons why people might start leaving Florida is because the insurance has become so unaffordable. But,
Yeah.
some people, they get lucky and they do find good deals because, part of the flip side of it is we've had a lot of insurance companies leave Florida, but there are new ones coming in to kind of fill those gaps. And sometimes they might offer attractive rates. My concern with that would be is like if they're a relatively new company or if they go bankrupt or whatever, how solid is that coverage? I think would be the biggest red flag for me.
Yeah, yeah. So you got obviously, credibility is a really, really important thing. So Michael, let's move on if we can to unaffordability. So what I want to do though is I want to start by kind of, because there's a lot of misconceptions about foreclosure. So where I want to start before we go into unaffordability is let's take a look at the data historically. So here's a data chart, Michael, right here. And what I do want to point out is because none of us are perfect. We don't have crystal balls, so I'm always analyzing my own predictions and seeing what I could have done better, what did I not do better. But I just wanted to point out if we compare from the beginning of the year, as far as like the non-current payments and the defaults, we actually have less people right now. And I actually didn't see this coming. We have less people in non-current status, as you can see here, by about 200,000. So not a lot. And also we have less people in the biggest at risk, which is the 90-day late. So, we're actually down from the start of the year about 200,000. Now, here's the thing, Michael. I'm not saying there's not going to be a foreclosure wave. Obviously, there, in my opinion, there is. But here's what I'm looking at. I'm following the default rates on loans because we know that the foreclosure process is a slow moving process. And the thing is in my opinion, it should be. In my opinion, as a society, we should try to keep people in their houses. Okay. If it's a family, if they're struggling, I think that we should give people a leg up. All right. The problem is all the greed and the money goes and the help goes, in my opinion, to the wrong people. But there's good people that need help. So here's the thing with unaffordability. And here's why I think unaffordability is really taking a hit. And the reason that is, Michael, is we're starting to see non-current payments with borrowers with high credit. So I want to explain this graph. This is a delinquency rate 6 months after the origination, okay, for FHA mortgages. So 6 months after someone closes on an FHA mortgage, this is showing the default rate and it's breaking it down into categories of credit, okay? The green line represents below 680. Obviously, this has absolutely skyrocketed. Okay, but if you look at historically, the last time we had this type of 680 and under default rate was obviously the last crash, right? You can see right here, that's the last time we were that high. So that's not, that's to be expected. But what hit me by surprise, Michael, look at, pretty much everything else over 680, credit scores between 680 and 719, it's never experienced this level of default in the history of this data, right? So this chart is going back to the year of 2000. We can see in this light blue line right here, that represents 680 to 719. Again, going back to the year 2000, we've never had this level of defaults, 680, 719. Same thing here with 720 to 759, as you can see with the dark blue line. Again, going back all the way back here, never had so many, mortgages, at least FHA mortgages, that are experiencing, default. And a lot of people, Michael, have been saying, obviously there's many factors, but, a lot of the argument on the other side of the coin is we're not going to have a housing market crash if there's not a wave of foreclosures. So the thing is, I don't agree with that. But can you maybe shed some light on what you think we should be looking at as far as when will a foreclosure wave potentially explode, right? When do you think it's going to spiral out of control? What should we be looking at? Should we be going on YouTube? Should we be following Black Knight? What should we do to really know what's going on here, Michael?
Yeah, that's a good question, Travis. My thoughts on it are, first of all, like you said, the foreclosures take a long time to go from beginning to end. I mean, the average time is probably like 2 years in most areas, sometimes even longer, for the foreclosure to go from that first, missed payments to actually being resold to somebody else. And, being that it's only the beginning of 2023, where does that put us? Probably 2025, before you even start seeing all these foreclosures come to market. It also doesn't account for whether or not these people decide to sell before, like I said, doesn't account for if they're able to get their life back on track and start paying again. So there's a lot of unknowns there. But the way I see it is we don't even need to have a foreclosure wave this time around to have
Yeah.
a housing crash, because all we have to do is look at where housing prices are going right now. The median home price is already down 10%. From June till now, it's down 10% nationwide. That's the nationwide average that it's down. And you can go to places like San Francisco or Austin, Texas, where it's down 18, 19% already,
I,
in just a 6-month time frame. And we don't have a foreclosure wave. So to me, all this is coming from, bigger factors, more of the economic factors, like the Fed increasing the interest rates, mortgages becoming unaffordable. Inflation is really rocking people's world right now when it comes to affording everything. And you don't need to have a foreclosure wave for, the housing market to take a downturn, because it's basically the most expensive thing that people buy. And, when you're running out of money, I mean, there you go. That's one of the biggest payments people have. Sometimes you just can't pay. And I think that a lot of people, they might not go into foreclosure. I think you're going to see more people try to get out, before it's too late, and actually cash out some of the equity. I think you're going to see some people that maybe go into a short sale situation before a foreclosure, because maybe they'll be able to work that out with their lender and things like that. So maybe there won't be a foreclosure wave. Maybe there will be. But to me, I don't think it really matters. I think we're going to continue to see the home prices come down regardless of that. And if there is a wave, it's just going to make things fall further.
yeah, you know what, I could try, but I don't think I could have said that better myself, man. I definitely agree with a lot of great points. I think this is, I mean, I think it's clear that we're going through price crashes because of unaffordability, quantitative tightening, demand destruction from the Fed. And we're quoting Redfin, you guys, as far as 10% decline. I mean,
Right.
it's Redfin. I mean, it's not hard to find this data. But Michael, as a result of the unaffordability, do you think that that's why we're seeing a drastic, even historical increase of people with good credit being non-current in their mortgage? Do you think that's because of unaffordability?
Yeah, most likely. I think it's that. I mean, some of it might be, strategic default, like if you're doing FHA, you only put 3.5% down, depending on where you live. If you're in one of these markets, you're already way underwater, depending on where you bought. And so, a lot of people that don't have a lot of skin in the game, they might just say, yeah, it's easier just to walk away than to continue paying for this house. But I think most of it probably comes from, the unaffordability factor. And when you only put a small down payment, that's the flip side of it. People say, oh, this is great. I can put 3.5% to get in. But guess what? Your mortgage payment is significantly higher than somebody who put a large down payment. You have the mortgage insurance as well. And, stuff like that makes it even more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is when you say you do FHA, put 3.5% down, it can cost 8% to sell your house.
Yeah.
So even though even a 5% down payment, a lot of times is not going to cover the actual expense. So another thing, Michael, even if the Fed pivots, right? Everyone's talking about pivot. I don't think I don't think we need rates to stay as high as they are now. Let me show you why. So this is the Fed economic data personal savings rate, and really what I'm trying to point out here is we have way less money saved. The households have way less more money saved than they did pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we're at a savings rate of 8.3% of your annual income. Fast forward today, 2.4. I will argue that all of the stimulus, the lockdowns, it really messed up people's spending habits. But the thing, Michael, I mean, I see I see loan modification as effective. All right. I don't see a foreclosure wave like 2008. I think there'll be one. Um, you know, but the unaffordability, man, I mean, honestly, it can get worse than 2008 is what I don't see it getting worse, but dude, I think it's really possible that the Fed overcorrects. I think that, you know, part of the solution to fight inflation is going to be a wave of foreclosures. I don't think we're going to see it, like you said, till 2004, 2005. But can you go into the, you know, Do you think that we need to have to maintain rates in the sixes and sevens and 8% even to properly fight inflation, or do you think that we could come down a little bit and still have the same results?
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to remain high. I think that we need to go through this. That's my personal viewpoint on it. Like, I think everything needs to be high when it comes to the interest rates right now because things have gotten too far out of control.
Yeah,
And this is going to be the only way to bring, prices of things back down to reality. If they, people are worried about them overcorrecting and keeping the rates too high and destroying the economy. But how is it destroying the economy? In my opinion, are things going to get bad? Yes, they are, but it's only going to get bad until it starts to get better. And once that point comes, then it's going to be better for everyone because now things will be affordable again, including housing. And hopefully by then inflation will be largely under control, however long that takes. And Fed chair Jerome Powell has even said that they plan on keeping rates high for as long as necessary. They may stop with the rate increases in 2023, but there is no guarantee that they're going to start lowering rates in 2023. They've likely said that they're just going to keep them where they're at. But
yeah,
I don't see that as a pivot. People think that's
right.
a pivot. That's not a pivot. They're not lowering rates. Rates will still be
I know,
high.
I know.
So how is that a pivot?
Yeah, I
So
know.
I think it needs to stay high, at least until all this is under control.
Yeah, yeah. I don't necessarily think that we have to because of the reality of most people, but I say just raise the rates. Let's get it over with. I mean, the reality is we're paying for the free money through COVID. We're now paying for all of that, and that's what we're seeing here now. If they don't reset the housing market, I mean, the entire economy, I think, is going to get worse.
Right.
So, this is something that we all have to do together. We have to get through it, get through the other side of it. And that's why, I'm sounding the alarm, you're sounding the alarm. I'm like, hey, you guys, chill a little bit while we're chilling, while we're waiting, empower, increase your purchasing power, credit, income, assets, expert in your local housing market and get ready to strike. But right now, doing that, that's not, in my opinion, that's not the wisest choice for most people, right? So, anyways, Michael, before I go, man, we've been on about 23 minutes, brother. Do you have anything you want to say before I go, brother? Before we go?
Yeah, I would just like to say that the more you pay attention to these, big trends that are happening in the economy and the housing market, then I think you're going to be in a much better position than somebody who just reads a couple of news headlines here and there, especially from the so-called experts that, say everything is fine and there's not going to be a recession and things like that. I would worry about that because, when have they been right? They said inflation was going to be transitory. That was wrong. They said there's not going to be a recession. That was wrong. Like there's all kinds of things that the experts have been wrong about. They said that housing prices were going to get more expensive in 2023. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that they've been wrong about. And, Travis and I are not experts. We're just regular dudes. But at the same time, we're sitting here paying attention to these trends, and we don't have an agenda. We don't have a reason to say it's going to go up or down. I mean, even at my channel, if the Fed did pivot and said, we're going to start lowering rates and printing more money, like Michael Burry thinks they're going to do, I'll say you might as well buy then because it's going to get more
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah, yeah. Good point. Good point. I mean, and I love that you brought that up, Michael. I mean, the reality is and I admit this, you admit this, the Fed is in control. The government's in control. If they decide tomorrow to pivot and start printing money, I'm wrong. My forecast is going to change,
Yeah, it
right?
has to. It has
It,
to.
it, it would have to, but like given the data, given the past, the logic, our experience, what they're saying right now, I mean, it's clear, right? I mean, their path is clear. The quantitative tightening is going to get worse. The housing market is going to continue to take a beating. Things are probably going to get more unaffordable before they get affordable again. And and I think a warning that I would add to that, Michael, and I'll let you say the last word here is, it's not too late to do something about it. Michael and I are not saying at all to be crippled in fear. We're not trying to make people afraid. We're simply trying to say, you guys may want to pay attention. There's a hurricane, there's a twister over there. It's coming for us. You may want to prepare for it, right? Don't go running towards it. No, don't go running towards the twister, even though all these other people are saying it's okay. It's just a windstorm. You're fine. You're safe. Just run right into the hurricane. Don't do it. And that's really what we're trying to say. People are, free to have their opinions. And honestly, Michael, I find even our critics' opinions valuable to me. So, I won't, if it gets disrespectful and petty, there's no value there, but I think it's, especially important for people like us to stay sharp. Right. And that's why I look at the people's opinions. I analyze what they're saying, but it all leads me to the same conclusion, man. I think the people that are not saying the house market's going to crash are wrong. I think, I don't know why, the data's there. Wishful thinking, I don't know, man, but you're definitely, you're definitely a voice of reason, man. And I really expect the fact that you were able to pivot. Right. And I think that as, peers on YouTube, I think that is something that I was the most disappointed with through this transition, is the lack of realtors and influencers pivoting to what's going on in the economy, to what's going on with the housing market. The thing is I'm a realtor too. I know how to cheerlead. I love real estate. I think everyone should buy real estate. I want to get back in and start selling it, Michael. But the thing is I can't do it. When I don't believe in it, man, and I think that I would possibly be responsible for hurting someone else. I know it's their decision. I can't do it. I can't be responsible. And one other thing, I'm so sorry. I'm going all over the place, but also what worries me is I think there's some professionals out there that take advantage of emotions from people that are ill prepared.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bad thing. But anyways, man, I'm sorry for rambling, dude. Me and you can just keep talking. So one last thing, Michael, say any last words of encouragement, man, before we go. We're at 27 minutes.
I think I already said it.
I know you said it well too. All right, brother. Well, sit with me, okay?
All right.
All right, guys, don't forget to go over to his channel, show him some love, subscribe to his material, watch all of his videos. Intelligent man. He's telling it like it is. Definitely, we would appreciate the support. Don't forget to shoot a comment below. And if you're out there investing in real estate, I wish you luck and I hope you win.